Yes, good day, ladies and gentlemen, wherever that you are watching us from. This is quite an interesting, exciting episode that we are going to be doing. Our first time being joined by a presidential candidate, female presidential hopeful President Elisabeth Valerio. And on my other side, this is Alekleko Msekenyi, and he'll be co-hosting. Actually, I'm the one who will be co-hosting with him on this very, very interesting, ambitious presidential candidate. We have the only, at the moment, she's the only female candidate that we have. So before I give it to Leko, President, how do you feel being the only female candidate on the list?
I just feel excited right now, whether it's being female, but also being on the ballot, just that opportunity to finally run in this race as a presidential candidate. It's what we've been working towards all this time. So I'm excited. I'm elated. And I'm also very optimistic.
I can say I would feel the same if I was a presidential candidate. Maybe I will be in the future. Leko, good morning, wherever you are.
Good morning, Sigo. I'm doing great, man. Great to see you too.
Yes, you can take the floor.
I'm so delighted also to be with President Valerio. So my first question is, I heard you talk about a lot of elephants and a lot of being in Wange. Then, as the question you get asked, why this?
Yes, I didn't initially pursue politics as my path. Like, it was not really what I focused on when I thought about my future. But as you mentioned, I live in Wange. My entry into politics actually was because of the environment I was living in. I live in a wilderness space where one of my focuses, I'm a conservationist. I was trying to protect the environment, protect the wildlife in Wange National Park, and also in the area surrounding the park, which is where I live. I got involved in politics because at a certain point in 2020, there came news that there were foreigners who were coming in wanting to mine for coal in a national park, within our national park, where tourists come. A lot of people rely on the tourism sector, and it's a space that wildlife lives in. And so initially, this didn't really add up to me when I started thinking about, why would anybody agree to let coal mining occur in a national park? So I started looking into it, and ultimately it came down to a decision that was made by one of our governmental leaders, a decision that implicated the livelihoods of so many people in my region. So I was part of a campaign to try to reverse this decision. Fortunately, the government did listen to our appeal, and they did reverse the position, and mining is not allowed in Wange National Park or in any national parks throughout Zimbabwe. But I slowly started getting phone calls from people in other parts of Zimbabwe saying, they are now in our area. People are coming to our area telling us that we have to get off our land. There are sacred sites, there are ancestral sites that people are being told they have to leave because foreigners are coming in to exploit natural resources in their areas. And then I started really looking at how is this transferring into benefiting our people? And there was no direct measurable benefit coming to the people in our region other than more pollution and bad roads and poisoned water streams, and children dying literally in open fires. Like there were nothing but bad things coming out of this, and I did not see economic value coming to these areas. So I called a meeting together for people from across the country, and I said, let's talk about this issue. I need to protect the elephants in Wange. And people sitting around the table said to me, Elisabeth, you are worried about elephants, you're worried about the environment, but today as we speak, children are not going to school. Our hospitals have no doctors. There's no medicines in our clinics. Zimbabwe is not doing very well. We have no water coming to most of the homes in Zimbabwe. Electricity is not consistent. So sitting around that table, we all started talking about, what do we do? How do we fix these problems? And 30 people coming together, we decided the only way to fix it was to create a new government, because a lot of these issues are the responsibility of the government and they're not being addressed. So it was a 48-hour meeting. We sat for 48 hours, like not sleeping much. And at the end of that meeting, we had formed the United Zimbabwe Alliance. I was elected the president of this party unexpectedly, and that was my beginning in politics. That's how I got to be in politics.
Actually, we are supposed to record that meeting so that we would forward the details to the Guinness Book of Records. 48 hours, I think that's the longest meeting in the history of our country.
I don't know if you've been to Wange, but we sat around fires. Like, we literally make fires and fire pits.
Yes.
We sat around a fire and up until, the early hours of the morning, refreshed, had our breakfast, continued our meeting. It was the longest meeting indeed, but it was a very productive meeting. Do you know that when we left that meeting, we had a very clear outline for our constitution as a political party? We had formed our executive directorate, and our leadership has not stopped working since that day. And I've not stopped working for Zimbabwe since that day.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. I see that. So, considering the judgment that was handed yesterday by the High Court, so which everybody is celebrating for you, what do you see yourself on 23 August? What do you see yourself?
On the 23rd of August, I envision and I hope for a win. I would like to see Zimbabwe have, for the first time, a female president. This will be the very first time that we will have a true change in government since 1980. We will have a very different outlook in terms of our manifesto for this country, what we will be seeing delivered for this country. Our leadership as the United Zimbabwe Alliance is very determined to shape and to deliver a very different future for our citizens. So I hope and I envision that on 23rd August, the citizens of Zimbabwe are going to turn out in numbers, because we need an overwhelming, very clear win in this election. We need to make sure the message is loud and clear. We need a very different president. Currently, people are saying all along, up until I got on the ballot, it's been a two-man race. That's what people are saying. I'm not sure we have currently 11 presidential candidates, but I do believe that I'm the first president to come onto this ballot with a true government in waiting. UZA is not a small party. We're a young party. We're 2 years old, but we have candidates right now contesting in 61 constituencies. But that was not all of the leadership that we brought to this election. 73% of our candidates were also rejected, just like I was. They're not on the ballot. They're in court fighting for the opportunity to contest. So UZA is the first alternative government that we've seen in years. And so I hope Zimbabwean citizens are going to look at my profile. Look at all the things I've already done for Zimbabwe. I'm someone who has walked the talk. I'm not waiting until I'm in government to work on building our country. And I do hope that we will be celebrating with joy and a sincere and genuine change for Zimbabwe. Because currently, the candidates, I think, that people see as the main, leaders within our country have been around for decades.
I'm quite excited when I hear you talk about how you drafted your constitution in 48 hours, which brings me to the assumption that your leadership is full of brilliant minds, because when you come up with a constitution in 48 hours, what would your presidency mean to the ordinary Zimbabwean who is in Glenville, in Eskodin, in Mbare? What would your presidency mean?
I'd like to speak to the point you made earlier first about, the brilliant minds. UZA has brilliant minds, but one of the missed opportunities for our country, we have brilliant minds all over the world right now. People living in diaspora, building other countries, building companies, innovating. And those brilliant minds need to be back home at the table. So the way we view our policies for this country, we want everyone to play a role in helping to shape the new Zimbabwe. We have spent 26 months, I think it is now, meeting citizens throughout the country, speaking with people, asking them, what do you think should be done in your own constituency, in your own province? So I think this is something that's very different about UZA. We are saying, let's all come to the table. It's not about one person at the helm or a few individuals directing us and telling us what we should do. We all have a role to play. And until we realize that and understand that, Zimbabwe is not going to progress. So our mandate, our goal as a party is to engage the citizens. And we've said from the beginning, formed in 2021. We are a citizens engagement platform. I know others have started to use that mantra, but we are the first and the original citizens engagement party. We also, as a party, have spent in that time a lot of time drafting a manifesto which outlines what we've heard from the citizens. So I've sat, Nana Gogo, Kumamisha, I've been all over this country, like literally spent time, speaking to young people, in the streets, Kumbare. I've been, in Mat South. I've met people with different ideas, and every Zimbabwean has a diverse and different perspective, something new to bring to our future. So we've drafted a manifesto that reflects what we've heard from the people. And so what they can see, what they can expect to see, is a government that is very inclusive and engaging. We will ensure that the citizens are at the center. We have MP candidates right now that are getting ready they're contesting in this upcoming election. We've already said to our MPs, you don't go to parliament with your own agenda. You go back on the ground, you ask the citizens, what are your views on this issue? What is it that you are concerned about? And then you go into parliament and represent them. We've forgotten that government's job is to actually serve the citizens, not the other way around. We shouldn't be given instructions by government. They are supposed to listen to the citizen voice, and they're supposed to respond to that. They are here to serve us. So you will see UZA delivering a citizens-focused government, a government that's very focused on service efficiency, one that's going to be tackling this issue of corruption throughout our nation, one that's going to be innovative. I'm a scientist. I've spent many years, focusing on innovation. I've also was the first, I think one of the first to really focus on STEM education in Zimbabwe. So I'm going to focus on issues like education, making sure that every child, regardless of where they live, what their background, they will have a good start in terms of education. We will have free education for primary school, for real, not just free education for primary school. I'm tired of hearing of people in rural areas saying, I can't afford school fees. And therefore, we disadvantage our young children. Every child should have the same start. And we need to make sure that we have classrooms that are the same, regardless of whether you are living in Highlands in Harare or you are in Makwandara. Every single classroom should have the same standards with teachers that are excited about teaching. We will be making sure the civil service is actually productive. I can keep going. Sorry, I get very excited thinking about the future we can build for our Zimbabwe.
I was actually going to cut you off now, and you sound very, very promising on addressing the real issues that will affect the common man, who has got nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with the squabbles in the leadership of the country or the governance of the country per se. But let us just now, because of our time, look at the political spectrum in Zimbabwe. I would say a lot of people would suggest that we need opposition parties united more than they are fragmented. Have you ever considered the option to join the other citizens that you were talking about, or the Kasukuweres, or the other political parties, so that you make a union of achieving the same goal as opposition parties?
Interesting question. So no doubt, Zimbabweans, we need to unite. When we sat at that 48-hour meeting, there were people who were from this political party and there were people from this political party. Oh, our symbol is this. This is our symbol as UZA. We are saying, let's unite as we build Zimbabwe. However, let's also be very clear about what UZA's mandate is. Now that we are uniting Zimbabwe, we have our own ideology. Our ideology is not about attacking others when they are in the political space. Our ideology is not about exploiting our country. Our ideology does not support a lot of the policies that perhaps some of these other political parties might have. When you speak of some of the candidates, they've been in government, they've been part of ZANU-PF. What difference are they going to now bring? We saw a change in 2017 and everybody said Zimbabwe is going to change. Has Zimbabwe got such a short memory that all of a sudden, because a new name comes back into the political space, that means Zimbabwe is now transforming? Let's be real about this. I think that I'm excited and happy that people are wanting to re-engage. But I do also know that we also as Zimbabweans need to give ourselves a real reality check. We've given the same people the same chances over and over and over again. And even some have rebranded, changed colors and all the rest of it. But it's the same people that have been in government. I have a difficult time when I see leaders saying, when I am president, I will do something. Yet they have parliamentarians, they have people in council, and we're not seeing changes in those communities. So let's be real about what we're talking about. But having said that, UZA is one of those political parties, probably one of the first, to say we want to see a Zimbabwe that is politically plural and that all political players have a role to play. Remember, Zimbabwe, we always say, we are at war, we are fighting for democracy, but I don't believe it should be a fight or a battle. We are in a contest of ideas, and everyone should come to the table with good ideas. And those ideas are what will build our country. So at the end of the day, UZA has already been speaking to a number of political parties. In fact, I speak to a number of the political leaders that are even on the ballot today. We are all politicians, and people reach out, and I'm not a person who's going to say I can't speak to someone because they're in another political party. Let's share the space. But at the end of the day, we have our own ideology. We have some political parties that have joined us, literally joined us and become we've absorbed them as part of the United Zimbabwe Alliance. So if they like what we're doing, they see our ideology, they're welcome to join us and become part of us. I do think that we shouldn't be fighting each other. And if you look at my Twitter space or my Facebook page, it's often some of the same opposition political players that are attacking me on my Twitter space.
Actually,
I mean, on my,
we are running on limited time. Before I give it to Leko, I would just want you just briefly to give us your slogan, because you can well judge the tone or the principle behind a political party just by their slogan. Would you do it for us?
As UZA, we say, ngati batanei tichiwaka Zimbabwe, asibambaneni sisaka iZimbabwe. Let's unite. So unity is at the center of our slogan. Let's unite as we build Zimbabwe. I know a lot of people are talking about all this stuff, but we started the Build Zimbabwe slogan. It originated with us, and we have been committed to that. As we speak right now, we are building Zimbabwe. I'm in the process of building currently entrepreneurial hubs in strategic places throughout Zimbabwe. We are building 30 companies that will create jobs in Zimbabwe. I don't just talk, we are doing it even before we are in government.
Actually, your slogan is done the talking. Leko, over to you.
Okay, I just want to point out to the candidates, taking into consideration that you're going against a strong CCC, a strong ZANU-PF, and you have 30 candidates for MP. What is the idea? Are you prepared enough in this election, and what is the plan with the other constituencies?
It's really disappointing because we still have court cases. We're hoping we will still have the opportunity to have more MPs on the ballot. They're literally in court today, tomorrow, next week, fighting for the opportunity to contest. We were more than ready to field candidates throughout this country. What the plan is, we will continue to engage, of course, with everyone else that is in government. We need to pave the way for a better Zimbabwe. So ultimately, even if we are not a majority, I do hope we will have a president, for the country from our party. And then certainly we are building bridges. I mean, we've got a number of independent candidates that are reaching out to us now. Now that they know UZA, they are saying, look, we just didn't identify with any of the other political parties. And so we will look at trying to strengthen what they're doing. And like I said, Zimbabwe's government is never going to be one political party. I know there's always been this push for unity and unity governments and all the rest of it. We'll see what comes. We're not completely closed to dialogue. I've never spoken to the president of CCC. We've never had a conversation. But I think all political players should be talking and trying to figure out the best way forward for our country. Ultimately, what we just want is a change in government, a very different future for Zimbabwe.
Okay, we are running against the time. I know you wouldn't be participating in these elections if you didn't have confidence in the electoral process in Zimbabwe, electoral institutions. But of course, there are some flaws which might need to be addressed. What reforms would you promise in your next government concerning the electoral processes in Zimbabwe, so that the citizen would find reason. Someone who is in South Africa now, very, very near, would say, I can't go and vote in Zimbabwe because of this and this. So what reforms would you implement just to restore that confidence in the voting process of Zimbabwe?
We've got a long way to go. The voting environment, the environment for our elections this year is not even, it's not fair. Clearly, the fact that I've lost almost 30 days for the opportunity to contest, it's not fair going into it. But we do have a very comprehensive manifesto document on our website. If you go to unitedzimbabwe.org, unitedzimbabwe.org, you can actually pull up the manifesto page, and we have listed all of the reforms that we will implement as a government.
Actually, let me compliment you. Sorry, I think you're the only party which has got a website now.
A website and a manifesto. So we've got 4 sections to our manifesto. Thank you. So I could highlight a few. We want our diaspora to have the right to vote. You can't have representation of the citizens if they aren't allowed to vote. And as we know, many Zimbabweans, millions of Zimbabweans are living outside the borders. So let's give them the chance to choose their own leaders. What are we afraid of? I also think that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. I'm not one person that likes to criticize people or institutions or leaders. You'll notice, UZA, we are not here to antagonize, but ultimately there's a thorough review that needs to be done of ZEC. We need to ensure that the voter education process is comprehensive throughout the country. I could list a lot of things, but we have all of these details spelled out. We need to address the issue of violence in elections. A candidate who specifically is violent against another candidate should not be allowed to be on the ballot. Right now, I have a candidate who has fallen off. They will not contest in their constituency because they were beaten, abducted, abused by an MP candidate who is now on the ballot in Harare province. And the police have done nothing at all to address this. This candidate stole phones, they beat women and young men, and all of these candidates reported it. It's not okay. So the Electoral Commission has work to do. We need a free, fair, and safe environment for every citizen. This is our right. This is what people died for. People died for us to have the opportunity to vote. So I think those who are in charge of the Electoral Commission need to examine themselves. They will be answerable at some point to their own ancestors. And that's what I have to say. We need to have accountability in every institution throughout Zimbabwe.
Wonderful. I think it's very unfortunate that one of your candidates was victimized. It is something that is regrettable. But also, I think it answers my questions that in Zimbabwean politics, the culture right now is, if as an opposition party you've never been victimized, it means you are part of the system.
It's very sad. That is the reality and the truth. I will say that I'm very thankful because I did go through a legal battle to get onto the ballot. I'm very thankful that our judicial system actually it allowed us to have a channel to resolve issues in this electoral process. So we're not all bad. There's work that needs to be done to fix the problems we have in our country. But again, enormous thanks to the fact that we do have a judicial system that we could go to, and that I finally was vindicated.
Yes, we are rounding up now. I think let's just give Leko the parting question that you want to be answered as we close. We are almost behind time.
Okay, not really a question, but maybe she can just give the words to the people. Can you just say something to the people and why they should trust you?
Thank you so much. I think Zimbabweans, every 5 years, we are given this opportunity to choose who is going to lead us for the next 5 years. Every 5 years, we choose the government that is going to lead. We've made those choices. I think it's time to really reflect on what the outcome has been. I'm coming to you as a new presidential candidate for the very first time. You have someone who is different, who has a different outlook, and we are a political party that is well equipped with structures throughout Zimbabwe, every province. We are well equipped and ready to lead this country. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. We all hope for change. But I say in this election, let's not just hope for it. Let's vote for it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Zimbabwe. Thank you very much to my host.
Thank you. Thank you so much, presidential candidate Elisabeth Valerio. We wish you the best on the 24th, and I think we'll be having a very beautiful president.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.